there, this is Tiffany from iHeartArtBlog.com, and I'm on the Sizzix Design Team. Recently, I made a crown similar to this one for my daughter's 3rd birthday, and I had a bunch of questions on Instagram, on Twitter, and on my Facebook, just wondering how I made that. They probably thought that I hand cut it. So today I'm going to show you guys how to create your own cartouche crown. And it's perfect for a young adult or a toddler or a young girl. And I'll also be showing you how to add dimension to those dies. So let's begin. Here are the dies that you'll be using, and I'll also go through the sandwiches that you'll need to run through your Big Shot die cutting embossing machine. So the main die is this Brenda Walton Cartouche Bigz L die. For this one, you'll need 2 standard cutting pads, like this. And you just feed it through with your material right here, your piece of pattern paper. And then I have this little originals die. This is Marissa Powalko's Majestic Unicorn, and I like to use my on the edge cutting pads, and they look like this. Or you can use your Sidekick cutting pads, or even your Sophisticuts cutting pads. So you just run it through like this with your material right there. And then for your thinlits and your framelits dies, you're going to use the magnetic platform with your standard cutting pads. So you can just reuse those cutting pads from cutting the cartouche crown. I'll be using the Banners Thinlits dies, the Be Thankful Thinlits dies, Hello Banners Thinlits dies, as well as the Fancy Framelits dies, these 2 sizes. In addition to the Sizzix dies, I just want to give you a brief rundown of the rest of the products. I'll be using Lawn Fawn's Let's Polka Mon Ami papers. So I have Strawberry Line Dance, Strawberry Hearts, Vanilla Polka, and then I also have a regular piece of white cardstock, and then this metal sheet from Add a Little Dazzle. Those are for the unicorns, and then this gold pattern paper, or this gold cardstock from Recollections, and you can pick that up from your local craft store. I got mine at Michael's. And then what's really important is your adhesives, and I'll be using these 3D foam creative sheets. I'll show you how to die cut these, and it'll add a lot of dimension to your die cuts. And then I also have some 3D foam squares and some regular Easy Dots permanent adhesive. So here's my Brenda Walton Cartouche Bigz L die. And the best way to get this crown cut out is to use a piece of 12 by 12 pattern paper. It can have a pattern on both sides or just one side. And then you're going to fold it in half on the diagonal. And then you're just going to play with it and see where the die cut will cut the paper. So you just sort of play with it until you feel like the entire die is covered. And you're probably thinking, how am I going to run that through my die cutting machine? Well, you take a pair of scissors and you cut the excess. And now you just put that between 2 standard cutting pads and run it through your die cutting machine. So once you have your die cut, you just fold it out like that, unfold it, and now it's time for embellishments. So here are the die cuts so far. I have 3 of the Borders Thinlits dies. I have 1 of the banners, the biggest banner. I have my Fancy Labels Framelits die cut out in pattern paper for the largest one, white cardstock for the smaller inner one, and then I chose several of the letters, or a handful of the letters, to spell my daughter's name from this Be Thankful Thinlits die. You can see You can leave the leftovers with the die so that you can use it for another project. To give your die cuts a lot of dimension, you can use these metal sheets from Add a Little Dazzle. I'm using this magenta pink sheet. Keep the tissue paper because that will help eject the material later from the die. And then I'm using these 3D foam creative sheets. It's pretty much like the 3D foam squares, but a big sheet of it, or foam tape, but a rather big sheet of it. That way you can die cut the foam and have it automatically adhered to your die cut, adding about a 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch of dimension. Here's my Sophisticut machine. I like using it for these smaller dies, and I'm just going to cut my foam material in two. And now I'm going to put down one of my cutting pads, then my die, that, and then my foam, and run it through 2 times with the foam. So here are my 2 foam die cuts. I left the adhesive non-stick sheets on the front and the back so that I could play around with them. And now I'm going to cut the metal. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky. So you want to run the unicorn with the metal sheet with the colored side facing up for one. The second time you run it through, you're going to have the back side of the metal sheet facing up. That way you can get the mirror image of the die cut. So now you have 2 unicorns with their foam adhesive backings die cut. So this is my Wordplay XL die from Tim Holtz. It's his Alterations collection. And I'm going to choose a number to die cut for the crown. And I'm going to go a year ahead of time and choose number 4 for when my daughter turns 4. So I'm going to put the foam down right on top. Notice how I'm not covering the whole sheet. You can do as many letters or as many numbers as you want. You don't have to do the whole thing. And I'm going to run this through my Big Shot machine once with the foam adhesive, and then again with my gold cardstock. So there are the 3 die cuts that we are going to make dimensional. I used the gold foil cardstock for the 4. And I'm just going to lift up one. These are double-sided with non-stick adhesive sheets. So I'm just going to lift up one side and leave the other side on. And then I'm going to place the die cut right on top. And when you're ready to stick that down, you can just release the back side. So I'm just going to repeat that with the unicorns. Is a really fun new tool of mine. It's called the Misty, and it makes stamping on die cuts so much easier. So I'm going to use this magnet to position my die cut and hold it in place. I'm sort of making sure everything is lined up with my grid, and then I'm going to put down my stamp sentiment on top. And I'm just going to figure out where it's going to look best. I'm going to close it and see how it lines up. And then I'm just going to bend my stamps a little bit more so that it's to the curvature of the banner. Then I'm going to ink it up. This is Lawn Fawn's Wild Rose. Perfect. You can also add dimension to your stamps with some airbrushing. These Thinlits dies are actually made for stenciling techniques. So I'm just going to put it back in the way it was die cut as best I can. And then I have this spritzer by Perfect Paper Crafting, and I'm just going to spritz some ink into the shadows. take it out, you have a little bit more dimension where the banner's curvature would be naturally. So here's my crown all embellished. I added some pearls and then some adhesive rhinestones and this little adhesive gold heart to the front. And now you have a crown, and you can loop some ribbon. This is some May Arts satin ribbon. And you can loop it right around the back. There are these two holes right there, and you just string your ribbon through. And there you go. Again, this was Tiffany from iHeartArtBlog.com and the Sizzix Design Team showing you how to embellish up that cartouche crown. Thanks for watching.